Let's speak to Dan Perry now, who's a former regional editor of the Associated Press. He also served as the chair of the Foreign Press Association of Israel. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Dan, welcome back to Al Jazeera. As a seasoned journalist of the Associated Press, you know the value of messaging and communications. How will Israel justify the killing of Hezbollah's senior spokesperson, a civilian, rather than a military figure within Hezbollah?
I think Israel will basically project that Hezbollah is completely legitimate, regardless of the role played by a particular person. I know it's true that his role made this more edgy, but there is a narrative that says that anyone contributing to the Hezbollah effort to justify attacks on Israel, and remember they were rocketed for over a year, for about a year before they began serious action to make it stop. I think they're just going to press on until Lebanon agrees to the proposal that was put on the table, in which the Americans are currently taking to Beirut. That involves Lebanon somehow asserting its own sovereignty over its territory, including the south bordering Israel. The Israelis don't feel at this point like they can tolerate Hezbollah anymore. And I would urge that we all understand there's a political aspect in Israel as well. I mean, the government, fears non-re-election in a couple of years. The situation with the Palestinian arena, slightly different. Israel's divided on everything about the Palestinians, and there really is a broad landscape. And the poll just Friday showed that 69% of Israel would agree to end the war in exchange for the hostages, meaning leaving Hamas, what's left of it, in charge of Gaza, which is not necessarily a great outcome. On the Lebanese front, no one wants to harm Lebanon. I haven't met a single Israeli that wants to harm Lebanon, but they're just finished with Hezbollah. And these nuances of what particular role Mr. Afif held or didn't hold, that doesn't interest them. And this includes the most peacenik of Israelis. They want Hezbollah gone, and they don't believe that there should be a non-state army, partly controlled by Iran, on their border, free to rocket them and dig tunnels in aid of a future invasion.
I wonder, given that this is a war on many levels, it is, of course, a military war, but it's an information war as well, the elimination of a public-facing individual, a conduit between the armed Hezbollah movement itself and the media, whether removing that figure from the equation really makes a difference whatsoever, given how preeminent, how dominant the Israeli narrative continues to be throughout this. It seems like the entire media landscape is skewed very much towards Israel at the moment.
It's funny. The Israelis are rather convinced that the whole world is against them, and they blame the incompetence of their government's messaging. They sometimes blame the actions. They blame anti-Semitism. They think the opposite. But I do agree with you that there is far more support for Israel's goals and even tactics on the issue of Lebanon. And honestly, I talk to a lot of people, including the Arab world, about this all the time. I haven't heard a credible defense of the presence of Hezbollah on a border controlling Lebanon and embroiling this poor country that should be a paradise on earth in never-ending war with a neighboring nuclear power. It's madness. So the Israelis feel they have the upper hand on messaging here. I think you're right to suggest that the world basically supports it. And there probably needs to be a deal, either 1701 or 1559 being implemented. And basically the difference is that the earlier 1559 requires the militias to be disarmed. Again, a highly defensible goal, which Lebanon itself agreed to about 20 years ago, but that's going to be difficult to do. I think Lebanon is, however divided, a society and a pragmatic, mostly pragmatic and modern society. And they simply have to decide if they're willing to try to lay down a law with Hezbollah.
OK. Dan Perry, always good to hear your thoughts. Dan Perry, former regional editor of the Associated Press. Thank you.